You are listening to
Yes.
87.1 Caroline Radio, KCGN Bakersfield, your home for all your variety hits, just like the Aaron's Opinion podcast. By the way, before we get going tonight, I want to extend a very, very, very warm welcome and a great big thank you to our friend Armando over at Blind Advocacy Radio. Our podcast is available there as well. Thank you so much, Blind Advocacy Radio. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be on now Blind Advocacy, and of course, I always appreciate Caroline Radio and all of the platforms we're on. Now, for those of you who have been following the podcast, you already know this person. We're going to talk to Radhwane from Tunisia. He's been on my show before, and he was saying that he would like to come back because there's a lot on his mind that he wants to go over this evening. So basically, you have an hour. How have things been going, and what would you like to talk about? You're on Aaron's opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah. I would like to talk a little bit about our societies, our activities, and how we are aiming to improve our situation and how we struggle to overcome as more as possible of problems. That's why usually I'm trying to keep in touch with the blind community from other countries to exchange ideas and to talk a little bit about our needs and how we can keep in touch with each other.
That's all great.
Yeah.
So, what are some specific issues you would like to cover? Maybe some specific things that have been going on that you've noticed, maybe some observations you've made. I mean, what's really going on? By the way, so, you basically have two new platforms. Um, as I said, the Caroline Radio and then Blind Advocacy Radio. And perhaps there might be blind people overseas listening to those stations. In fact, I suspect that there are, and I hope there are. But many people around the world do not know Tunisia. So maybe if you want, you can talk about what it's like to live in Tunisia and what you do and some things like that and what it's really like for blind people. My blind audience would appreciate that. So maybe start there.
Yeah, Tunisia, my country, is located in North Africa. It's a small country, but it's including nearly 10 millions people. But I would like to talk, of course, about mainly about the blind. Unfortunately, most of time, blind community here are struggling with more obstacles such as that our terrible mentality related to our visual handicap. For example, when talk about my own experience, at the beginning I faced lots of problems related to integration and how my family accepted this handicap and even how to live in our society. Sometimes even to take the bus or even the taxi, it's not possible because most of people cannot accept
Right.
living with one blind
You said
people.
you
Yeah,
said something interesting that I would like you to expand upon. You
yeah,
said that it can even be difficult in Tunisian society for people to accept that their family member is blind. I might be confused or I might be right on here. I recall that maybe you lost your vision as a teenager, I think, right? When you were 13 or 14, right?
yeah, yeah,
From getting bitten? No, not getting bitten. That was someone else. From some sort of a disease. You had some sort of an infection or something, right?
yeah. It was because of meningite tuberculosis.
There you
uh,
go.
yeah, an infection that affected my head. Thus, I lost my sight step by step,
Right.
during nearly 4 or 5 weeks.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. So Yeah, we've never talked about it before in previous episodes, but I didn't ask it then. It didn't occur to me to ask it. How did your parents react? I have a suspicion, but how did your parents react to this sudden vision loss?
Yes, at the beginning they found that handicap too hard to accept, and if you want, I can say that I let them leave their reality and accept this blindness in hidden way. I tried, for example, sometimes when I stay with them, I talked a little bit about my friends, my blind friends, and how they succeeded in their life. Another example is related to a teacher of Arabic, my teacher of Arabic, who taught me in secondary school. I told them that my teacher succeeded in his studies, and then he was married and even have his children. And I was talking usually about his successful career. That's why I let them accept this reality step by step. For example, I didn't ask them straightforwardly or start nagging or weeping. No, I usually I'm trying to work hand on hand with my brothers to help them understand this handicap. And now they are totally aware that I am able to live in this society and to move from one city to another, and even from one country to another. Maybe I didn't tell you about my story last time. It's
If
related to
you
my
you probably actually you probably did, but I would like you to repeat it for us because we have such a newer and bigger audience. Yes, talk
oh
about where you went to Algeria, I believe.
yeah, I asked my friend who is studying in another city. He told me that his experience in volunteering works helps him to go to Russia in volunteering work. He is a teacher of German language. So his proposal was why not to live the same experience. So at that time, I was torn between Algeria and Egypt. I selected Egypt. Of course, I chose Algeria, and I went to Werigla, mainly to Werigla in South Algeria. I taught there two classes in Global Village, and I contributed to the activities of Global Village there. And really it was a nice experience because I am keeping in touch with my friends, with my Algerian friends until now. We are keeping in touch, we are exchanging ideas, and mainly for the blind community in Algeria there, I helped them to through stating examples of my experience and how I succeeded in my studies, how I let my parents be convinced of what I'm doing. That's why I'm encouraging anyone to live, enjoy his life, and to find solution for any problem. Usually try to do your best. And until now, for example, a few days ago, even the president of our blind unions, he told me that he is totally relying on me to raise awareness and to ask people accept this handicap. And in
So I'm
relation to
really, I mean, so
yes,
I'm really proud of you for coming to my show, and I'm
thank you
really,
so much.
I'm really proud of this, of where this podcast has gone and the reach that this podcast has. So then, basically, what this all comes down to is the president of that Tunisian association then would depend on this episode to be able to educate other blind Tunisians all over your country. I know that you can do this. and I hope that you will share this episode with him. And
Of course.
I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Radwan. If that person, whoever they are, if they would like to reach out to me, they may. If they would like to be interviewed here, they may. I would be open to interviewing someone like that. I would be more than happy to give him an hour of my time so that he can educate the world and tell people what's going on in Tunisia and educate people about the challenges that blind Tunisians face. I would really enjoy that. What do you think about that? Do you think you could get him on here? Do you think you could get him on this podcast?
Yes, yes, why not?
Why not? Why not? Because he probably has a thousand other things that would be that would be better to do than talking on Zoom. He probably has a thousand other things to do. But maybe he would come. Maybe he would come, and of course I'm guessing he speaks English well, right?
Not very well. He can speak English, but not like other maybe other guests or other blind community that you are inviting.
Hmm.
Because even few days ago, yesterday he told me about two issues. The first one is related to one couple of one father here in my hometown in Midon, Jerba. He told me, the president of our blind union told me that that man wouldn't like to send his blind son to study in another city. So he asked me to visit him and to talk about my experience and to show him how I succeeded in my life, in my studies. Because I
Hmm. Hmm.
honestly, I'm totally aware that success in life is related to basically in success to success in job. That's why, and I can say that I didn't begin my life until now. Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
think,
this simple
well,
way.
I'm very impressed with you. The more that I speak to you, the more that I like the way that you go about life, and the more that I'm able to relate to you, honestly, as a person. I will tell you about the one, and you at home as listeners know this, and if you know me personally, you know it to be true, that I'm someone who struggles immensely with with social things and finding friends and being able to relate to people, but I really mean this, man. I'm really able to relate to you more and more. And the fact that you were sent to go basically go educate these people, whoever they were, about the possibilities that their son had in another city. I mean, that's a really huge honor and that's a really huge deal that the organization would trust you to do that. So I think that this is really fascinating. And people are oftentimes curious, how did you travel to this city? Was this family, were they living in Tunis?
We traveled through the bus because I knew my one of my neighbors
Mm,
who was usually organizing travels there, trips.
mm.
That's why I asked him if when he is going to Algeria. So we kept in touch, and I went through the bus.
On on the bus, on the
Yes.
bus. You went to visit this. So just to clarify it a little bit, you jumped ahead slightly. This family that you were sent to go talk to, who needed your
Yeah.
help, were they living in Algeria or Tunisia?
No, in Tunisia, here in my
Ah,
hometown, in
oh,
Midon, Jerba Midon, yes.
oh, the way you okay, no worries. The way you explained it at first, they were living in some other city in Tunisia. Okay, got you. All right. Well, tell our listeners more about that visit. Like what happened when you arrived and all of that.
You mean my visit to Algeria?
No. Try to talk about what happened when you spoke to the family